Good morning, everyone, and welcome to BIBA 2015, Delivering Our Promise. And just let me ad-lib for a moment. We are thrilled as an association to have Lord Hunt as our chair. Let me just share two things with you. Firstly, as you've just seen, he's the only man I know who can put Othello and Chair Atkins into the same speech. And secondly, no word of a lie, last Tuesday morning we had our BIBA board meeting and we asked David, you got your ear to the ground, what's going to happen in the election? And he called it right. He said a Tory majority between 10 and 20. He's the only person I know that called it quite like that. We give considerable thought each year to our conference theme. With so many outside distractions this spring, not least the general election, it is important for us all to retain business focus. So our theme this year takes us back to basics. For BIBA, it's about us delivering our promise to you, our members. Later on, I'll return to this promise and look at how we are continuing to exert influence where it matters. For the brokers, insurers, and service providers in the audience here, those back in the exhibition hall, and those watching this live on Periscope, delivering our promise will clearly resonate with you too. A big thank you at this time to our main principal sponsors, Ageas, Aviva, AXA, and Zurich. Your support for this conference is gratefully received and helps ensure it remains the premier insurance event in Europe. Since I spoke to you last year from this very stage, we at BIBA have been exploring how the association can best engage with young brokers. A steering group of young brokers from around the country has come together under the leadership of James Nattrass from Bluefin to help plan and coordinate that engagement. And their first idea was a real belter. At the instigation of the BIBA Young Broker Steering Group, we have this year at conference for the first time included a dedicated Young Broker Day with their own program of learning and networking taking place here tomorrow. This pilot has proven so popular that we've had to rehouse it in a larger room here at Manchester Central, and the sold-out signs went up in March. I'm really looking forward to their next big idea. The BIBA conference continues to attract an increasingly large audience, and for this we are also grateful. This audience comes from far and wide, and so I'm particularly pleased to welcome the growing participation of overseas delegates. These include several of our friends from the BIPAR Federation, including brokers from Bulgaria, Estonia, Italy, Poland, Romania, and Southern Ireland, plus BIPAR chairman Alessandro De Bessi. We also have delegates from Gibraltar, Guernsey, Jersey, Nigeria, and the USA. Welcome to you all. I stood on this stage last year and set out details of BIBA's new advisory board and governance structure. Our chairman has just announced a recent change, but we have had a couple of other changes at board level since then that I wanted to draw to your attention today. We think, as agent of the customer, it's important to have a customer voice on our board. So we've appointed Teresa Fritz as our non-executive director. Teresa brings with her a consumer focus, having worked previously for Which, the Money Advice Service, and she is currently serving on the FCA's consumer panel. Secondly, we have seen a change on our smaller brokers advisory board, where Andrew Gibbons has become chair, and Ashley Rogoff, MD of Ashley Page Insurance Brokers, has become deputy and taken a seat on the main BIBA board. This change has taken place as a consequence of Kevin Hancock of U-Tree Insurance standing down to concentrate on his day job. Kevin has given the association many years of service, from chairing the BIBA Anglia region, chairing our old General Insurance Brokers Committee, to chairing our smaller brokers advisory board and serving as a BIBA board director. Kevin, the association cannot function without the input of members. So on behalf of the BIBA board and executive, many thanks for all you have given to BIBA. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Hancock. Thank you. For those at the back, Kevin looks rather embarrassed. Now, as many of you will remember, at conference last year, I announced a new 3-month consultation exercise regarding standards. Having asked members whether they felt standards needed to be raised, 75% of respondents answered yes. Of those who answered yes, 95% then said there should be a role for BIBA in raising standards. With 55% of members responding to our consultation, the BIBA board feels it has a clear mandate to move forward with the majority view that BIBA proceed with a voluntary code of conduct that codifies existing requirements rather than creating new obligations underpinned by guidance. Since the consultation closed, our Code Working Group have been working on the wording for BIBA's voluntary code of conduct. I'm pleased to inform you that the code is now available on the BIBA website and from the BIBA stand in the exhibition hall. Commenting on our code, Martin Wheatley from the FCA said, and I quote, "Initiatives such as this demonstrate the important role that organisations like BIBA can play in raising industry standards to help ensure good customer outcomes." Now, in the meantime, the Insurance Brokers Standards Council, the IBSC, which was formed by a group of practicing BIBA brokers and is supported by a panel of advisors, has set up and created both a code of conduct and underpinning guidance on a range of relevant issues. We have spent many months in discussion with the IBSC about how best we can jointly move forward the defining of standards for the benefit of all practicing insurance brokers. I'm delighted to be able to announce today that we have now formally reached agreement to open up discussions between BIBA and the IBSC. We'll explore how we can join forces to create a single code of conduct and guidance for brokers. A working party involving both organisations has been established to consider how best to achieve this, and it is expected that matters will be finalised well before we meet again at BIBA 2016. This announcement is, I believe, a significant and important step for the association. So please allow me to thank those BIBA members that responded to our consultation paper, our regional and technical committees, our 5 advisory boards, our Code of Conduct Working Group, the main BIBA board, and the IBSC and their advisors for the efforts that have been put into to get us to this point. Let us all now embrace this new initiative and play our part in defining and then raising standards. When we at BIBA consider the delivery, the promises we make to you, our members, we look at our efforts on promoting your interests and influencing the key decision makers. And it's that influencing activity I want to speak about now. Now, one of my favourite all-time films is the Monty Python classic, The Life of Brian. In the film, the People's Front of Judea, there they are, bless them, have met, and they're criticising the Romans. Reg, their leader, played by the brilliant John Cleese, delivers this classic line. All right, but apart from the sanitation, the medicine, education, wine, public order, irrigation, roads, the fresh water system, and public health, what have the Romans ever done for us? That hurts the throat to do it like that. I have a sense that the effectiveness of our influencing activities is not as well understood as it might be. Now, that could be down to us hiding our light under a bushel. So to continue with that metaphor, allow me to hold the light up and shine it for you this morning. When I became CEO of BIBA in 2013, I had a very clear vision of what I wanted to achieve and plans on how to achieve this. Those plans have been put into action with a clearer and sharper focus on our lobbying and representational activities and a real extra effort on our communications. This has led to a significant increase in member engagement with us and our issues, and has enabled us to exert influence in a more targeted manner than before. So let me talk you through some of these influences. Thank you. The work of our Liability Committee and Public Affairs team in the House of Lords supported the insurance bill's passage into an act. Our main lobby to bring back in the key clause, terms not relevant to the actual loss, was successful. In the words of the former Law Commissioner, David Herzl himself, I am grateful for all the time that BIBA has devoted to this task. The new Act is the better for it. Which reminds me, the new BIBA Guide on the Insurance Act, written in conjunction with McTavish, is published today. Copies are available on the BIBA and McTavish stands in the exhibition hall. We attended 7 Competition and Market Authority hearings as part of their private motor insurance investigation. We submitted evidence from our members, corralled evidence from software houses and insurers, and succeeded in removing and avoiding many onerous proposals. Our influence led to the banning of most favoured nation clauses. We also achieved an 11-month extension to the introduction of the main part of the proposal, involving no-claim bonus protection, buying members the time they need to ensure compliance. Part of our influence is ensuring we are the go-to place for government. Last summer, we responded to a call for help from 10 Downing Street to find insurance solutions for those in the sharing economy, many of whom were self-insuring. We found members who could provide new products. We put a well-received guide together which had a ministerial launch. It then received 2 positive mentions in the Department for Business, Innovation and Skills Sharing Economy Review document, published on Budget Day last March. We've made many trips to Brussels on the Eurostar, not for the waffles, though I do have a penchant for them. But we met the key players on the most important piece of legislation that will hit brokers this decade, the IMD revision. We met Lord Hill, the Financial Services Commissioner, the officials who wrote the European Commission's text, the Latvian presidency, who lead the whole parliamentary process, and the council officials too, who have our position on every single article in the revised text. Although it's not quite over the finish line yet, many of the points about level playing field are specifically down to the concerns we raised about your competitors, for example, the comparison sites. And on comparison sites, the FCA responded comprehensively to our manifesto points and submissions with clear action, as did the CMA and AOPA. With the FSCS, we met with the City Minister, Andrea Leadsom, and had detailed discussions, even, dare I say, arguments about the unfair funding structure. She promised to look at it. She has approached the regulator, and we also have word of a structural review from the regulator next year. The BIBA Manifesto, which I hope you're still not sitting on, has influenced many arguments, discussions, and agendas. For example, our request to deal with information overload was followed up by a new FCA information working group. And when it comes to regulation, we have influenced the regulator to come to the table with their chairman, CEO, and head of general insurance supervision, all committed and working on our 10-point plan to achieve smart, clear, and proportionate regulation. Now, I don't have time to talk you through all the areas where we have successfully exerted our influence, but let me just speed through a few more. Signposting. The Money Advice Service and others, including more banks, insurers, and charities than ever before, are using our Find a Broker service. Over 350,000 people are helped every year, all of whom are directed to BIBA member brokers. BIBA went to the Conservative, Labour and Lib Dem party conferences in 2014, the first time we had done all 3 in the same year. We've met nearly 150 MPs, MSPs, MEPs and government officials in the last 2 years across 19 different areas of government. We launched a new insurance premium index with Actuaris, which has caught the attention of 10 Downing Street and the mainstream media with 50 TV and radio appearances. As you heard my chairman say, with our friends at the CII, ABI and Aon, we have designed a new GI apprentice standard which will help influence young people to work in insurance. We produced our new Dummies Guide to help members influence SME customers down the right path in their insurance buying process. On flood insurance, we lobbied for Band H homes to be included in Flood Re, and that's now been adopted. Our input to the Insurance Fraud Task Force, which was positively mentioned in the Chancellor's budget document, will influence change, as will our support of My Licence. Our submission to the autumn statement prompted a personal 3-page response from the Chancellor. The Department for Transport are formally researching manifesto points on speed awareness courses. We've submitted 51 responses to government consultations over the last 2 years. That's about 1 every fortnight. We've influenced the Home Office regarding riot victims. They will now be able to get interim and new for old payments. The turnover of a business will not be considered. How to submit a claim and the time taken to submit your claims have been significantly extended. We've handled over 600 press inquiries. We were heavily involved with HM Treasury in developing the Insurance Growth Action Plan, and our work on apprenticeships and call for total signposting are both born from the action plan. I feel that due to this growing influence, we have more support from inside and outside the profession. We have 16 different firms and leaders supporting our lobbying calls in this year's manifesto, ranging from the CEOs of insurers to customer bodies and the Director General of the CBI. However, my particular favourite is the FCA Chairman's commitment. I think that tops it all. Now, ladies and gentlemen, can I have that slide back with those logos, please? Thank you. That is a pretty impressive set of influence, and at BIBA we only have a very small public affairs team. So can I ask you please to put your hands together for BIBA's public affairs team? Thank you very much. And finally, my Twitter influence has grown, with now over 950 followers. These range from young brokers to old brokers, consultants and journalists to plenty of followers in a variety of trades and professions from around the world, which must say something about BIBA's influence spreading. We are building momentum here, and our influence is going to continue to grow. Over the past few weeks in the build-up to the general election, a lot of thought has been given to the medium-term future, the next 5 years, from a political and governmental perspective. I would like to air some thoughts on what the medium-term future might hold for our insurance broker members and their customers. But let me start with your customers. We'll hear tomorrow from Joe Corson, CEO of the Institute of Customer Services, about customer satisfaction in the SME sector. But first, let's look further up the road at where customer trends may lead, and I have half a dozen broad suggestions. We're now starting to see more insurance being bought by customers as opposed to simply being sold. This fundamental change will continue to force the re-examination of roles in the distribution value chain and become more relevant to the customer. Indeed, the regulator is now showing interest in this space as well with their ban on opt-out selling. Customers' demands and expectations are changing and will continue to change. Put simply, what was good service yesterday is likely to be not good enough service tomorrow. Customers' increasing expectations around simplicity, transparency, and proactivity are fostering innovation in product and service design and delivery. The risks that our customers are exposed to are changing. In the last 12 months, we've seen an explosion in the sharing economy, with businesses like Uber Taxis, Love Home Swap, or my colleague Graham Truggill's favourite, borrowmydoggy.com. It's true, you can borrow a dog for the weekend. If you'd like more details, you'll find Graham on the BIBA stand in the exhibition hall. We've seen the growth in digital currencies and the ever-changing nature of cyber or data risks. Brokers are and will continue to be at the forefront of risk identification, qualification, and mitigation. And finally, when it comes to customers, the collection and use of their data. Data is and will continue to be at the heart of so many of the key debates facing both brokers and insurers. Big data, put simply, the availability of real-time information, will increasingly shape the availability and demand for insurance solutions. We should not, however, lose sight of the concept of mutuality when considering the basics of insurance. Increasing use of big data does throw up the threat of creating pools of uninsurable risks with the reputational consequences that might go with it. Now, turning to brokers and what the future in 5 years might look like. If we look at the broker landscape, we see a sector which continues to thrive, still writing around 54% of all general insurances in the UK. This is despite the number of intermediary firms slowly falling, and the demographic makeup suggests this trend might continue, maybe at a rate similar to the number of new startups. Traditionally, we've seen an evolutionary process where the larger firms buy medium-sized firms, medium-sized firms buy the smaller firms. We've called that consolidation. What we've seen recently is a reduction in the number of medium-sized firms that are attractive to the traditional consolidators. The next 5 years is likely to see the size gap grow between larger and smaller firms. For smaller firms, the need to specialise and differentiate on service will become increasingly important, whilst for the larger firms, diversification, whether that involves MGAs or reinsurance vehicles, will be of growing interest and relevance. Competition in the intermediary space will get tougher and increasingly sophisticated. The growth of peer-to-peer insurance and the sharing economy will provide threats for some, but opportunities for others. The likes of Google and Apple are already, so we're led to believe, preparing for FCA authorization. And I'm sure we can all think of several more very well-known brands that could just as easily cross over into our space in the next 5 years. The early adopters amongst you will already be seeing this development as more of an opportunity than a threat. Putting greater emphasis on the quality of advice, anticipating and understanding the emerging risks your clients face, putting the customer right at the center of the firm's culture, and creating more of a one-stop shop for all the customer's insurance needs gives even the smallest firms the confidence to compete in the market of tomorrow. And finally, it would be remiss of me when looking into the mid-term future for brokers not to at least mention regulation. One of the consequences of the banking crisis has been the development of personal responsibility and accountability of approved persons. The FCA have been developing their use of attestation, getting approved persons to attest that what they are responsible for actually happens, creating the accompanying personal liability. Now, whilst we can probably all spot some unintended consequences of this approach, I think it likely the use of attestation will filter down to more than just the largest firms over the next 5 years. By the same token, the 10-point plan on regulation in the 2015 BIBA Manifesto sets out how we can achieve a more appropriate and proportionate regulatory environment for insurance brokers. I'm confident that in 5 years' time we will have ticked most of the boxes on that list. And finally, when considering the medium term, where might BIBA be in 5 years' time? Now, as I'm sure you will expect, we have a strategic plan underpinned by a vision to be the essential and most influential general insurance organisation representing brokers, intermediaries and their customers. To achieve our vision, we have to live up to our 5 values. Firstly, representative, we will strive to amplify and represent the voice of insurance brokers, intermediaries and the general insurance industry. Secondly, approachable. We listen, consider and respond to our stakeholders' requirements. Thirdly, integrity. We can be relied upon to work in a fair and trustworthy manner to do the best for our members and their customers. 4, support. We work hard to support and guide our members collectively and individually. And 5, expertise. We are the go-to organisation for expertise and informed opinion. Now, as you can see on the left-hand side, these spell out the word raise. Appropriate when you consider how we want to raise standards and how our members, through their input to our manifesto, raise issues of concern. How we then raise these issues and exert our influence with the relevant politicians, civil servants and regulators I described just now. Our values are supported by strategic goals, business plans and KPIs, which if we meet will deliver on that vision to be the essential and most influential general insurance organisation representing brokers, intermediaries and their customers. Looking ahead to the next couple of days, I believe we have a programme of headline speakers that equals, if not beats, anything we have done previously. I'm sure this morning's Chief Executives Forum will be enthralling as we see our host, Jeremy Paxman, lead a discussion on the key issues for 2015 that includes Amanda Blanc and Andy Watson, plus Peter Blanc and Julie Page. This afternoon, our star attraction will be the Right Honourable William Hague, until recently Conservative MP for Richmond in Yorkshire, First Secretary of State and Leader of the House. His analysis of the general election and what happens next has proven to be one of the most eagerly awaited keynote speeches we have ever had at a BIBA conference. Tomorrow morning, we have our Sporting Superstars panel debate, Building a Winning Team, something we all need to do in our own businesses. Leading sports consultant psychologist, Professor Steve Peters, chairs a session that will now include ex-England cricket captain Michael Atherton, 11-time gold medal winner Paralympian Dame Tanni Grey-Thompson, and ex-England footballer, captain and manager Kevin Keegan. Our final keynote speaker tomorrow afternoon is probably the UK's best-known physicist, Professor Brian Cox, and I'm particularly looking forward to his session. So, ladies and gentlemen, please visit the exhibition hall, do some business, come and say hello to me and my BIBA team, but most importantly, enjoy the conference.